been waiting for. The henna tattoo may have been fake, but judging by the scene here at Times Square, New York City, apparently the promise was very real. We're just moments away from midnight, November 9th, and the launch of what is perhaps one of the most anticipated console video games of all time. I'm going to step aside and let these guys tell you what it is.
Halo 2 released in 2004 to critical and commercial success, being the sequel to the killer app of the original Xbox released with the console in 2001. It not only put Xbox and Microsoft on the map, but kickstarted a golden age of video games in the middle of the 2000s that many look back fondly upon. The story of the game follows up almost immediately after the events of Halo Combat Evolved, where the player, in the role of Super Soldier Master Chief John 117, is debriefed on the condition of his gear from the previous game. But first, let's catch up on the general conflict that happens in Halo.
The plating was about to fail. There's viscosity throughout the gel layer. Optics, totally fried. And let's not even talk about the power supply. You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Taking place in the 26th century, humanity under the United Nations Space Command enters a conflict with an alien religious army called the Covenant, who seek to find the Halo rings in order to enter the Great Journey. The first game takes place on one of these rings, where it is revealed that the rings are weapons of mass destruction that wipe out all life within a galaxy. Master Chief, a Spartan super soldier, fights alongside an AI companion called Cortana, landing on the ring in order to stop the Covenant from firing it and wiping out all life in the galaxy. The Master Chief is successful in his mission, stopping the ring from firing by causing it to self-destruct. The first part we will be discussing is the Armory, where a Marine helps Chief, now controlled by the player, with his new gear that he will use throughout this game. We are introduced to looking up, down, and side to side, which is explained as a targeting system test, so the player can configure the camera controls how they want outside of combat. Following this, we are given the chance to move around the room, noticing the ammo on the table and the compartments marked with red lights on the walls. Following the Marine to the right side of the room, we get a demonstration of the player's energy shields and are introduced to how they work. The door on the left-hand side of the screen opens, as the Marine explains what to do if the player's shields are offline.
If your shields go down, find some cover, wait for the meter to read fully charged.
That, or he can hide behind me. You done with my boy here, Master Guns? I don't see.
When Sergeant Johnson enters the room from the elevator, prompting the player to follow him to the award ceremony. We get off the elevator and enter a tram, where we learn about the location the Master Chief is on. The Mac Cannon becomes an important location the player goes on to later in the level. Following a longer cutscene that shows the award ceremony and the punishment of a Covenant shipmaster for failing to stop the Master Chief, we enter real gameplay. The player follows Marines down a set of stairs that curves to the right, where two weapons caches open with the red light turning green. These will be seen throughout the level to give the player ammo for their two weapons that they can carry. The two weapons that the player has access to are the battle rifle and the submachine gun, but further ahead we can pick up a magnum pistol placed on a green container. This serves to show the player that they can only carry two weapons at a time, unlike other FPS from the 90s, which saw players able to use several weapons at once. Continuing to follow the Marines, we enter a room with 3 levels, with the most cover being on the lowest level, which the Marines go to. A gray and yellow door with a green light and a red strobe light is right in front of us, as the Marine on the radio explains the information of the invading enemies.
Targets, watch the crossfire. They're in standard formation, little bastards up front, big ones in back. Good luck, Cairo.
We hear explosions that are muffled behind the door, followed by a yellow light from the small opening in the center of the door, signaling that it will be breached soon. When the door is breached, we see enemies come from the right into the room through the door, with 2 waves of grunts accompanied by elites with energy shields that are similar to the players. We enter the breach, and go to the right down a hallway with rubble making cover, as we see another 2 grunts and an elite. Going further down the hallway, we see a Marine on a mounted turret beneath a stairwell in an adjacent hallway. Going up the stairs and going through a door with green lights that opens on our left, we enter a room overlooking a lobby. We now know that any door marked with a red light is locked, and any door marked with a green light we can pass through. We also know that the weapons caches on the wall will open when we go near them. Entering the room overlooking the lobby, we can turn left again and see a small firefight happening there, as well as a turret next to an open window. We can use the turret to clear the lobby without actually entering, much like the Marine in the stairwell. As we make our way through the lobby, we go through multiple squads of grunts and their elite commanders, which, when taken out, cause the grunts to panic. Entering the next room, again through a stairwell, we see a hangar with a catwalk divided in two, with a boarding ship on one side and an unused ship docked on the other, blocking the catwalk from the ground. The boarding ship is the first thing we see in the room on the left, as well as another Marine fighting enemies coming from the invading ship. We pick up grenades as we walk to the right on the catwalk, and we can choose to either stay on the catwalk or jump down to ground level. After killing the first squad that comes from the ship, we see another come from the same ship, this time with an elite wearing red armor. When jumping down after eliminating all enemies in the area, we hear a radio broadcast from Cortana to another station in orbit.
Malta, what is your status? Over.
I don't believe it! They're retreating! We won!
In the context of the larger battle, we find out that the Covenant forces are retreating from the orbital space stations. Moments later, another door is breached on the other side of the hangar, with another boarding ship attached adjacent to it. We fight the enemies, who can now throw sticky grenades in a close quarters environment, noticing that the blue sticky grenades can stick to surfaces, enemies, and even the player. Eliminating the enemies, we hear another radio message from the captain to Cortana.
Cortana, assessment.
That explosion came from inside the Athens, same as the Malta. The Covenant must have brought something with them. A bomb.
Then they sure as hell brought one here. Chief, find it.
Our next objective is to find this bomb that the Covenant have planted on the station and defuse or get rid of it. We turn around and notice a set of doors at the bottom of a ramp that runs under the hangar that are now open. Going through them, we find enemies in a small hallway divided in two with a small tunnel between them. Going back up the stairs again, we re-enter the armory, where the Marine who helped us is killed, dropping his shotgun that we can pick up. The compartments in the walls are now available to us as we now have a weapon on us. We enter another lobby much like the one we were in near the beginning of the level, but this time we are fighting enemies on higher ground with plasma turrets. We go down to the other end of the lobby with a door with a red strobe light above it. Through the door, we see enemies to our right under a stairwell. Around this time, the ammo for our battle rifle is running out, so we have to switch to another weapon, picking up plasma weapons dropped by the enemies. We know these weapons are different from human ones. Plasma weapons don't need to reload, running off a set amount of energy within the weapon. Instead, they can overheat and cause the weapon to be inoperable for a short duration. We can also dual wield certain weapons like pistols, SMGs, and small plasma weapons like the plasma rifle and pistol. We go down a hallway, meeting Sergeant Johnson again, fighting enemies down the hallway to an airlock that is open. Entering the airlock, we see elites on jetpacks outside the space station. Jumping down and killing the last elite that we see, we hear another radio message from Cortana.
Sir, boarders have breached the fire control center. They have a bomb.
Can you defuse it?
Yes, but I'll need the Chief's help to make contact with the detonator.
Chief, get to the bomb, double time. Cortana, prioritize targets and fire at will.
We regroup with Marines when we enter an elevator room, fighting a new enemy type that can fly, hover, and shoot at the player. As we wait for this elevator, we can hear the Mac cannon firing.
I'm going loud.
The same cannon we saw earlier in our tram ride with Johnson. Boarding the elevator, we fight a few more enemies until we use it for ourselves, taking it down to the cannon in order to help Cortana defuse the bomb. We get on the platform connected to the cannon, which violently moves whenever the cannon is fired. We fight 2 more elites on jetpacks on the cannon before making our way to another airlock door to the bomb.
Just so you know, there are quite a few elites guarding the bomb. You may need to get creative.
We fight the 4 elites that are guarding the bomb until a cutscene plays, signaling the end of the level. Halo 2 uses enemies to show the player where to go, as well as geometry and placement of cover, height differences, and room size to teach the player basic combat mechanics. This has been a level analysis of the opening level in Halo 2, and my name is Kyle Welling. Thank you for watching.
Not on your own.
Sir, permission to leave the station.
For what purpose, Master Chief?
To give the Covenant back their bomb.
Permission granted.